An SG1 revival, a return of the series that we really, really love. This could be huge. Welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV movie channel.
Open the gate now!
So I have actually been talking to some of the people that I know that work in and around MGM and Amazon who give me great intel on what's going on around this. And the rumor is, and I have to say this is firmly in the category of rumor, that actually the plan is for this Stargate SG1 revival rather than a reboot. Now, this has been whispered about for quite some time now, but those whispers are slowly becoming a bit more of a shout. And I'm hearing more and more this is the way they plan to go. So we might actually get an SG1 movie followed by a series, a proper revival of Stargate, rather than just a reboot. So, first of all, very quickly, what's the difference? Say they did a series called Stargate Command, which is actually the series we suggested they did several months ago when we sort of did a string of videos suggesting what a new series could look like. Say they did that, that would be a reboot. It would be a what they call a soft reboot. So the universe of Stargate, SG1, SGU, SGA still exist, but you have new characters, new plots, new storylines, and new actors. So it's a soft reboot. You can then have a hard reboot. Now, a soft reboot is also a lot of the times called a continuation. You can then also, though, have a hard reboot, which is basically you ignore what happened in SG1, SGU, SGA, and you just have a new Stargate series. The canon previously doesn't exist, so you can do whatever you want with a new storyline. Now, there is a lot actually to say for that option, because by the end of Stargate SG1 in particular, the Tauri were very powerful. We have starships zipping all over the place. We're actually the baddest fleet in the galaxy. So, if you have a new series, you have to start there. And it's a little bit more like Star Trek than Stargate, really. So I can understand the argument for that, but it's not what I want. I don't want SG1, SGU, and SGA to be ignored. I love those series and I want a continuation. So a revival, though, is a little bit different just to a soft reboot, in that the series won't be called Stargate something. It will be called Stargate SG1, and it will actually be a revival of that series. It would be as if that series never ended. Now, in the past, this was something we very rarely get to see. If a series ended, it ended. That was it. It very, very rarely returns. And if it did, it was always sort of like a reboot. But in recent years, we've actually seen it a couple of times. I've just started watching Criminal Minds Evolution. That is a revival. They've brought the old actors back. It's basically like the show never ended. We have seen that a couple of other times, especially with sort of like Will and Grace and a couple of other examples. So does this mean they will bring back all of the old actors? Well, they'll bring back as many of the actors as they could, is what I'm being told. And actually, it looks like they're going to try to bring back actors from not just SG1, but SGU and SGA. I've been able to tell you actually that Robert Carlyle has already been approached, and apparently, according to my sources, so is David Blue. I'm told again that Amanda Tapping would be very willing to return, and so would Michael Shanks. So we're getting at least those four actors. I would be very surprised if Christopher Judge wasn't willing to return. And I think there are lots of other peripheral actors. People like Joe Flanagan would, return in a heartbeat. So I actually think we could cherry pick the best actors from all three of those seasons and sort of make a super Stargate. Characters that we love from all three seasons together in one new adventure. Now, that would be based around SG1. So I guess, again, we would get to see a new team. So what I am suspecting here, now, this is just my opinion, but it is kind of the vibe I'm getting from the sources that I speak to, that this would be a core set of new actors that would be the SG1 team. But the way the story will be is that these other actors in the peripheral will also be heavily involved. So, I mean, it wouldn't be difficult for like General Carter to be sort of like the head of the new SGC, to take on the Hammond role. It wouldn't be difficult to bring Michael Shanks in as some sort of civilian leader, or potentially even maybe the leader of the new SG1 team. I'd like to see that. Or Joe Flanagan as the leader of the SG1 team, or so on and so on. Ben Browder, maybe. So that would basically be the way the new SG1 series will be based. It will have a core of new actors, but with surrounding of a lot of returning actors. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I really am interested by that idea. I like the idea of us being introduced to somebody new. I want that next interesting character. And actually, the people that brought us SG1 in the past were really good at that. And I actually think that the creators, Penguin and Parker, I trust them to create an interesting new core characters for this series. But then to bring back as many of the old characters as possible is, again, also it'll make us feel at home. It will make the series feel like Stargate. We will know the characters. We will feel an instant sort of connection to the series that if they just do a straight up soft reboot will be more difficult to get. If you think about the difference between Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek, the Next Generation, we fell in love with those characters, but initially they had to work really hard to get us hooked. If you bring back a few of the original characters for Stargate, we'll already be hooked. And as I say, we'll already feel at home. But also, I have been seriously concerned about how they would set up this series. Stargate, I was worried it would become more like Star Trek than Stargate, as I've said. So to revive the SG1 series, to call it that for one is fine with me, I don't mind. But to revive the basic premise of a team going through the gate, going on adventures, monster of the week kind of thing, that just makes sense to me. And it's the sort of television series we want to see. Now, Stargate Universe, it was limited in lots of ways for me, even though I thought it was getting loads better. It was limited in the fact that they were stuck in one place. Now, I know they did go on planets when it stopped every so often, but it didn't have the scope that SG1 had. SG1 could literally do anything week on week because they were going to completely different places week on week. Stargate Universe was a lot more about them surviving and then trying to, discover the mysteries of the Destiny. Now, I don't have any problem with that sort of series. I quite enjoy them. If you have the Star Trek, if you think about that similarly, TNG, they could go anywhere, do anything. Deep Space Nine, not so much because they were stuck on the base until the Defiant came along and then they had a bit more scope. Voyager, even though they did do anything each week, there was always that limitation in that they were trying to get home. There was no Federation, there was no support. So, again, they were kind of limited in what they could do. So if they bring back Stargate SG1, it basically allows them to do anything. And that's something I'd be really excited to watch. The other thing is, there does seem to be a thing in Hollywood that Hollywood executives and stuff have actually suddenly in the last few years remembered that we quite like that kind of thing. We do like the Monster of the Week show. Again, if we look at New Trek, they brought us Discovery, very limited in scope, based around one ship. It was that overarching story. Even though it was quite interesting in places, there was always that limitation in that they were focused around one story arc. But then we've had Strange New Worlds. Now, I think it's fair to say the fans have reacted far more warmly to Strange New Worlds than they did to Discovery. Now, we're all very excited about Picard, but seasons 1 and 2 were again limited by that one overarching story. The audience enjoy that kind of thing, but it's not what we want all the time. We do enjoy the Monster of the Week kind of thing as well, and Hollywood executives seem to have remembered that recently. So again, this is another hint that actually MGM and Amazon are listening to us. And if this is the way they go, and they revive SG1, I genuinely think they're going to create a series that takes us straight back to the very heady early days of Stargate SG1. There we will get, story arcs throughout it. We will get villains that, we see week in, week out. But we'll also get to see loads of new planets that look suspiciously like Canadian forests. And we'll get to see new villains we've never heard of before. And that's pretty exciting. As well as getting characters that we know and love and new characters to fall in love with. So, guys, get in the comments and tell me what you think. Is this Monster of the Week SG1 revival something that you'd be excited about? Or is it something that you're like, nah, been there, done that? Get in the comments and tell me exactly what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out. And you can also go and join us on Patreon, where for a small fee, you get to watch most of our videos without trailers and before YouTube. So if you want to see our videos before everyone else, you need to go over to Patreon. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.